So the lender side of things is always different because there's always
Right.
relationships and all that.
Sure.
And when you have a team, you build those relationships.
That's right.
So you make that team or the lender you work with kind of that's your priority. If
Sure.
you can't do something, then you have your backups, right?
That's right. Welcome to Real Estate Success Partner. We're your hosts, Devin, Dubuc,
David, Nguyen.
and we're here to talk about how to have great success in any market. Today, David, we got another guest from you. I don't know where you keep finding these awesome people, but who'd you bring in today, my brother?
Man, we are lucky to have Brian Jenkins from Salina, Texas, one of the best realtors that I know.
Salina, Texas. Man, I'm from Salina, Texas. Do we know each other?
We do live in.
Oh, yeah, we do know each other.
Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah, our kids go to school together, right? Yeah,
That's exactly right.
Great stuff, man. Great stuff. So Salina, Texas, is that where you're from originally?
No, I'm originally from Indiana. I'm a Yankee living in Texas, but I've been here since 1995. So 28
awesome.
years down here, majority of my life. Still not a Cowboys fan. Sorry, folks.
All right, you got to go, Brian.
They're my
Show's over. Show's over.
They're my second team, but I've lived all over North Texas for a stint, about 3-4 years. Was in San Antonio.
Killer.
Had family in Texarkana, spent a lot of time up there. So I pretty much know a lot of Texas, maybe not far west, which is probably okay because it gets dry and hot out there. So
I remember driving out to Vegas a couple of times, and there's miles that you go by, and there's just nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Flat.
Yeah.
But you can speed.
Yeah, you can.
You can do 100,
definitely do that.
yeah, as long as your car can do it.
So if you think about the old Wild West, it still exists.
Yes, it
it's still there.
Yes, it Yep.
West Texas, baby.
That's
So Indiana, what part of Indiana were you from?
Really closer to Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Maryville,
Tri-town.
Barry, Indiana. Spent some time outside South Bend and Fort Wayne. That was my childhood, though.
That's okay.
And so I
Yeah.
remember shoveling snow.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and snowballs and the cold.
You see the cold weather for sure.
And I'm different because I don't mind cold. When you get snow here, I'm all for it. I'm the guy out in the shorts and t-shirt
Exactly.
with a snow shovel shoveling driveway, right? My wife still makes fun of me for that.
100%.
How I live.
I'm from Kansas originally, so I get the same thing. And my dad's actually up in Indiana, right outside of Fort Wayne, a little town called Beppis. I don't know if you may have flown through it.
That's it. Very small.
It's pretty tiny.
Yep.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. In fact, the main street where the little storefronts are that don't exist, there's no stores there anymore.
Right.
He owns them. He's right there.
Oh, that's very cool.
That's him. Yeah. Gary Dubuc. So that's where the Dubuc comes from. But
Not Iowa.
No, not Iowa. Funny thing is that if they would have spelled it the correct way, right, we probably wouldn't have problems with people butchering the name, right? It's
That's true.
Dubuc. It should be Dubuque, but it's not.
Yeah.
And people send it's Dubuc, Dubuque in grade school. Yeah. Kids are mean.
Your son hasn't
Kids
heard
are
that,
mean.
does he?
He has not heard that.
Okay, good.
yet.
Let's keep that one. I won't tell my kid that one.
Shh.
No.
So anyway, so you come out here, you said about 28 years ago.
Yep.
Good stuff. And you jumped right into real estate.
No, I was in high school. I should have. Had I done that, I would be.
Oh, you'd be a rich man.
Oh, extremely. No, so I graduated from Lake Dallas High School, which at the time was a 3A little school. Now they compete with Prosper and Frisco and all those others. And ultimately went to UT Arlington. So I kind of stayed local.
You did.
In North Texas. Got my feet wet there. The fun times, the parties and the fraternities and stuff.
You got to do it.
And
It's part
hung
of
out
it.
in Fort Worth and Dallas. And then I graduated.
Yeah.
That was a whole different ballgame.
Surprise,
And,
real world.
What the heck am I going to do? And I got into insurance sales.
Okay.
And so did that for Geico for a little while.
My man.
And they came and they said, well, we need some people to go and do claims. And I went, let me do something. So I went and did claims, did that for a while, and then went to San Antonio for a few years, worked there.
I bet you got some stories on that.
That San Antonio is a whole different beast.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot different now than it was when I lived there. But that whole town has changed so quickly.
Right.
For good and bad. Just depends on where you're at there. But I had some really interesting experiences there that I do relate to with my customers when they talk about life. But then came back up here and I was going to open a bar. And
Okay,
I'm going to tell you, that's not an easy thing to do either.
That's what I've heard.
And so I decided to scratch that as I did the research and try to get the funding and all that lined up. And
little did you know, they shut down often.
They do. And I'm glad I never did it because the location I was going to do it, they decided we're not going to have parties and stuff here. And it was downtown Plano. And I was like, you know what? That's not for me. So I stayed in claims for a long time, claims management, did all that. And then ended up managing a law firm.
Okay.
And did that locally for a few years and then just said, I'm out. I got to go do something where people don't yell at me all the time.
I love it.
And I got into real estate. And the funny part about that, you never know what to expect.
Yeah.
You think, you go and you take these tests. And,
That's right.
And you think you're being taught how the business works. And everything you're taught does not matter. You don't use it. You literally pass a test and it means nothing.
Yeah. And it's a hard test to pass. Don't get it wrong, guys and gals. Like, it's not an easy test.
It really is.
Yeah. It's more about the bylaws and all the things that you
really don't use.
You have to know from the regulatory side.
Correct.
But when you're out there actually selling real estate and getting to know people and learning how to communicate and negotiate, that's not part of the test, right?
No, it is not.
Or I think maybe the best one is how to prospect, right?
There's where it was going. So my first year, my dad and I both kind of started at the same time. He retired, and then I just decided I needed to change. And we joined this tiny little Nathan Grace was the name of the company. They got bought out. They don't exist anymore.
Sorry, Nathan.
What you don't do is you don't go into a business. My dad did it part-time for like 20-some years, right?
Yeah.
You don't go into business with somebody that did part-time. Why? Because they don't know how to prospect either. They just did it on people they came across every now and then.
Yeah.
And so that first 9 months, I made $0, spent a ton of money on marketing and advertising and all this other stuff, and made it nowhere to the point where a really good friend of mine was in real estate. Mm-hmm. He was on a team, and I went to lunch with him, and he's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You are not the Brian that I know. Like you've definitely changed.
Wake up. Yeah, wake up."
And I said, I don't know. He's like, "How's business?" I was like, "It's horrible."
Yeah.
Like, what the heck is this? This is horrible. Why the hell do you do this? And he said, why don't you come talk to us? So I went and talked to there's a Chad Smith team based in Arlington.
Okay.
I talked to them, and honestly, Chad was the head of it's his team. He didn't want to hire me. He did not want to bring me on.
Okay.
But my buddy Jason said, no, trust me.
Yeah.
You won't regret it. So I got on there. First year, I did 36 sales.
Killer.
After that, 2020 was a fun year for me.
Oh, man, I bet.
COVID existed. I don't believe in all that. So I went into just let's go full bore.
Yeah.
And I think I sold 58 homes that year. Awesome. And so became one of the top agents on the team, just knocking it out of the park.
And 58 loans with a ton of support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so the lender side of things is always different because there's always relationships and all that.
Sure.
And when you have a team, you build those relationships.
That's right.
You make that team or the lender you work with kind of that's your priority. If you can't do something, then you have your backups, right?
That's right. 100%.
But you always try to get them with the best people that provide the best service, that's going to follow up, do things on time, at the best rate for your client.
That's right, 100%.
So,
Closing on time.
I was in charge of that though.
Yeah, well, that's great. And we always say close on time. Getting clients to the closing table, that's not like something special. That's just you have to do that. That's a requirement. And so at the end of the day, you definitely have to pair yourself up with people to make that happen. Because unfortunately, last time I looked, that's not the same experience that you get with every loan originating.
Correct. Correct. Well, and to prove that, we had a really good relationship, getting all kinds of leads and sending them and all that, and they had great rates and all that. But I kept getting asked over and over again, will I give some of my commission back to them? And I'm like, why? If you're doing your job, I shouldn't have to because I'm working my butt off, right? Yeah. And with my buyers in particular, we're showing a lot of houses. There's a lot of time spent, a lot of money spent up front to list homes and show.
That's a red flag right there.
It was. Yeah. And it kind of soured me. And I was like, I don't want to work with people like that. But what I've come to determine is that it is about the customer service. It's rates are one thing, but you get what you pay for.
That's it.
Right.
100%.
And I'm not saying go out there and get a 10% rate when everyone else is at 7.
No,
right? Don't
not at all.
But you got to look at the big picture. I'm big on reviews.
Yep.
Like go do your research.
That's right.
If your agent doesn't have somebody, that's a red flag to begin with.
No question.
Because in this business, I get calls literally every day.
Yeah.
from some lender wanting to, meet for lunch and do all this other stuff. And David calls me once a week. And it's not for lunch, though. It's just to talk, hey, is there anything we need, right? And
it's part of our process.
Important. Being available on the weekends when we work the most. And then just, hey, what do you need? What is it that you need? And then here's what we got going on. Is any of this going to help you? Do you have any clients that it would help?
That's it, 100%.
So yeah, I mean, I cherish relationships that nurture each other.
Well, we talk about this, your relationships need to be with like-minded, like-hearted people,
Correct.
right? That's super important. And it's a phrase we use all the time. And it's because we found at this stage in our careers, because we're not the young strapping lads we once were, right?
I may not have been. You could have been. I may wasn't.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we've come to a point in our careers where we don't want to do business with just anybody. Yeah. We want to do business with people that we like to work with, and that we know that we can rely on just the same way that they can rely on us.
I can hand it off and not worry about
it. That's it. Exactly. Set it and forget it. Yeah, you know that they're going to do their end on their side of the team, and you're going to do on your. And at the end of the day, you're going to be communicating, and that's the three biggest things that we hear most realtors are complaining about is closing on time, alarmingly enough, right? Clear communication throughout the loan process. That's funny. Why are we not talking to the people that we're doing business with, right? And following up with the leads that you're providing. You're out there doing the hard work to bring these people through the door. If you're going to take the time to share that with somebody, man, they need to act on that, right?
They do. Yeah. And it even takes it a step further to find solutions when there are issues, right? When there's opportunities that present themselves, got to find that solution.
That's right.
The same buddy that got me on that team, I talked to him the other day, and he said, are you closing stuff? I'm like, well, not like I was. The market's changed, right? We got to adjust to the market. I said,
100%.
But he goes, my stuff's falling out. I said, why? And he's not one to do that. Like, he's a really top agent. And
he brought you over there, right?
He said, it's the lending side. He goes, people are either losing their jobs, things are changing, but the lenders aren't finding solutions to what's coming up.
That's a problem. That's a problem. What they say, I just got back from a conference. We talked about it before I came on here. And we had over 250,000 loan originators in the United States a couple of years ago, right? We came down to about 140,000 last year. They say once renewals hit at the beginning of 2024, we're going to be less than 90,000 originators. And what do they consider originator? That's any person that closes at least one transaction a year. Now, not a ton of transactions, but at the end of the day, we know that some of those were doing more, right? And why is that? That's because a lot of the lenders out there are not doing the right activity to stay successful. And that's unfortunate because, they're going to miss out on a great industry. This is a phenomenal industry if you find a way to win. But that's what it takes, is finding a way to win. And, what you're talking about is your friends got agents out there or loan officers out there that are falling apart because they're doing the wrong activity. As a result, he's struggling because they're not holding up their end of the part. That's not a problem for you because you've made sure you've paired yourself up with the right people. But I want to go back and talk about something. So you did 58. Did you have people that worked underneath you at that time, or was that just all you, brother?
That was so here's what I had. I had a closing manager.
Okay.
Well, her job was to, from the time we went under contract, take over from there. But you're not out.
That's right.
You get questions, and you've got to get, anytime you've got a team situation like that where you're handing off somebody, you've got to make sure that who you're handing off to is phenomenal.
100%.
And she really was. Her name was Annette, and to this day, my past clients I worked with, they're like, "Do you still use Annette?" I can. I absolutely can. I don't because I do it all myself.
Yeah.
But she was phenomenal. But the other part of that is you got to make sure that they're okay with that because they built that relationship with you, right? You got it because you get relationships all the time. You talk to them,
you're
and
as good as your name.
Call or you're not available because you went on vacation. Let's say.
Yeah.
They're going, "Hey, where's David?"
Yeah.
I need to know where he's at.
Well, they made a relationship with you. They want to call you, even though you have a team.
Right. Yeah. I don't know why. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a people person, but that's what they want.
You are.
So you've got to convince them of that, right?
Sure.
And so, at this point in the team that I'm building, because it's a little bit about over a year, but it was the worst timing to start a team.
It was definitely an interesting time to get started on a new project.
Costs went up, right, and all that stuff. So
they did.
We did that. And we're gaining momentum, and the way I look at it is like I can do that, but what am I doing for my agents if I just have them pawn it off? They don't learn.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
And so I've got agents that have been in the business 6 years and only sold one house.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to do a whole lot, so I want them to learn. So I'm there to help them.
That's great.
And then once they learn how the whole process works.
Yeah.
Then I can go and assign them a closing manager.
It makes perfect sense.
And then, you got to pay a closing manager, right? So you don't need one necessarily unless you're doing it.
We say until you earn the right.
Right.
Until you earn the right, right? And what is that based off? How do you earn the right? Well, number one, experience. I think that's part of it, but that's not the only thing. The main thing to earn the right is you got to bring the business in, right? When you start bringing that business in, you've earned the right to have somebody else to transition that over to. And we call it around here sweeping the parking lot, right? You buy a new business, and in the beginning stages, you're one of one employee, right? And that's the way you got to look at loan origination. That's the way you got to look at real estate, right? At the end of the day, when you're first getting started and your boots on the ground, this is your business, right? So if you were going to buy, I don't know, let's just throw out a 7-Eleven quick shop gas station, right? And at the end of the day, you have just enough money to stock it full of products and to get the business up and running and get the lights on, but you can't afford to hire somebody. Guess what? You're stocking the food, you're cleaning the parking lot, you're ordering the inventory, you're cleaning the bathrooms, and you're sweeping the damn parking lot, right? So we call it sweeping the parking lot. But once that business starts to flourish because you've put in that hard work again and again and again to make that business successful, well, now you've earned the right to have somebody else help out.
100%.
And now you can start to transition some of that off, because what do you want to do from here? We want to grow.
Yeah.
We want to grow, because that's how great businesses grow.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I'll tell you what, when I started this branch, Brian, I was one of one employee, right? One of one employee. And, we grew this to a point where at one point in time, I'd love to say those numbers are still where we are today. We were closing 347 loans a month, right? One of one. I swept the floor. I cleaned the parking lot. I did the marketing. I did what it took to build that business, right? And that's exactly what you're talking about. I love it, man, because, a lot of people that are watching this, and they're going, man, how do I create great success? It's finding a plan, putting it in motion, continuous work to keep it going, and it doesn't stop until the success happens, and it still doesn't stop. You just get to add some friends that can help along with you. That's it, 100%.
In fact, a lot of times it's more work, it's just different work.
That's it,
right?
Different work. That's right, different work.
It's your child.
It is, 100%.
And that's really it. And there are times where you don't want your child. I'm joking. You don't want to be around them because they're having their little fits and things, and you're like,
I got a 2-year-old,
right? But ultimately, like right now, we're in an interesting time, because right now we have to talk to our clients about, and really anybody that is interested at all in buying or selling real estate, about what is the norms, historical norms.
That's right.
Because for years we've now been at 5% or lower on mortgage rates,
100%.
and we're now at the historical norm. 7-8% is the historical norm. Yeah. And there was a time when I was really little, early 80s, 18%, 16%.
That's right.
My parents bought a house with that. And
in the 90s, it was
14%.
90s, it was 9s and 10s.
Yeah.
We literally just talked to an agent a few minutes ago, actually, and she's been in the industry for 3 decades. And that's what she said. She said, well, the norm was 9s and 10s, right? And, I think she even maybe had kind of transitioned a little bit into rates are a little high right now. And it's like, no, they're not.
You gotta get the right message out.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the key.
That's right.
And education is number one in our business.
It is.
I've got agents out there that I run into, that I do business with, that are the flashy ones, right?
Yeah.
They got the nice cars. They dress super nice.
That's
and
right.
all this other stuff. And they may sell 30 homes, 40 homes a year, but here's the kicker. Their clients don't come back to them.
Yeah.
And you see their reviews, and they're 4 out of 5 stars, 3 out of 5 stars. They're not the 5 out of 5 consistently.
That's it. Yeah.
And you wonder what's going on with that. And I know what's going on with that.
Yeah.
It's they're in it for them. They're not in it for their clients.
Man, I love that.
And that's key. And so with my agents, and one of them's my dad, I have to constantly remind them, hey, the outcome is not what our goal is. Our goal is to find them a home and get them comfortable to where 5 years from now, when we call them, they're in so love with their house that they don't want to move, but they're moving for whatever reason, so they call us.
That's right.
And thankfully, I get that. So I've been in the business now a little over 7 years, and I'm getting that refresh, because the average is 5 to 7 years.
That's it. Yeah.
So I'm getting those people that are calling me, hey,
the repeat business, because you gave them a 5-star service at the time that they did business with you. I'm sure you've got a follow-up system to where you stay in front of them. In fact, I know you do, because we talked about it. Yep. And at the end of the day, when it's time to think about something else, guess who they're calling?
That's it. Yeah. That's it. The hardest business to get isn't the past clients.
Yeah.
Because those, if you did your job right, they'll come right back to you.
That's right.
And I ran into one. This is funny. It was during 2020, and I sold so many. Some of them I showed 3 houses to.
Yeah.
They bought it, and I really didn't spend a lot of time with them.
Yeah.
And then I handed it off to a closing
But you still gave them the same experience.
I gave them the same experience.
That's right.
Super nice. And I ran into him last 2 weeks ago, getting a haircut. Yeah. And they didn't even recognize me, and I didn't recognize them. But I'm looking at her, and I'm like, I know you. And right before we walked out, I was like, I sold you a house.
Yeah.
She goes, you did. I remember you. And I'm like, why didn't you say something? She's like, I just didn't think you remember. I'm like, I remember everybody.
Yeah.
Right. I may not remember the name right off the top of my head, but I remember a face.
But you were thinking about
and
it
I
that
knew
whole
exactly
time.
which house it was. I could drive to it.
Yeah, I love that. I love
and
that.
that is actually really cool about our business.
Yeah.
Is it one they'll come back to you. So you build long-term relationships, but out of those long-term relationships come opportunities. I bought my house because of one of those.
Oh, wow.
In our neighborhood,
Yeah.
I sold a guy a house. He built it. I was throughout the whole process. I know the builder, quality, everything. 2 years later, he calls me. I'm moving to the Philippines, and I walked in. I said, "Here's my offer." It was slightly below market,
right?
Just because he didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And phenomenal. I mean,
That's
I love
killer,
it.
man.
So
That's
I mean, you look.
Well, and good for him going to the Philippines. I've heard some great. We have some employees over in the Philippines, as you know, because we've talked about this. We have some virtual assistants that work on the team. They come to our meetings and they're part of our team. We talk to them literally every single day. But the cost of living over there in the Philippines is just a fraction of what it is here. And people that sell here and move over there, man. I literally just watched a segment on this the other day. Live a pretty killer life.
Oh, and he was still working. He worked remotely, and he's in IT, right? So 100%. Him and his wife both still worked remotely. They own 2 properties over there.
Beautiful.
One in the city, one in the mountains. Which I was asking him all about it, and he's like, "You come to the Philippines, visit me."
I'm on the way.
There's a lot of stuff going between here and the Philippines. We'll see what happens. But no, it is cool. And Costa Rica's the same way.
It is.
Moving to Costa Rica.
We've been. Yeah. We took our entire team to Costa Rica one year. Right before COVID.
Team,
I
don't get to go to
Dave, was it awesome?
It was awesome.
How many times did you go back?
I think I've been back like 4 or 5 times since that first trip. Yeah.
Zip lining and the whole 9 yards.
Oh, man. It's just.
We did it all.
Talk about a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
It's a fraction of the cost.
And it's just the people.
That's where I'm retiring.
The people are great. The people are great. The food is great. The fruit. I mean, let me tell you something. You've never actually had fruit until you get it picked from the jungle and at a farmer's market on the side of the road, right? I mean, there's no preservatives or additives as it's set on a boat to get shipped across sea. I'm telling you, those little bananas we get over here that just taste terrible.
Plantains.
No, they're bananas.
Oh, they are?
I don't know what they call them. They're not really bananas, but they're tiny. They're like this big, not the plantains. And I've had them here and they're just terrible. You go over there, it's like the sweetest, most amazing fruit. Yeah, so Costa Rica, the Philippines, like amazing.
That on my list.
You got to do it. So you bought your house from this guy, but I want to go back and talk about something because you said something that's really important. What we found, and we hear this from all the best agents, is the agents that get into this industry to make quick money, man, they're here, they do what they do okay, at the end of the day, but they don't have that long-term stigma that keeps us all in this industry.
Right.
And people don't come back. But what we found is the great agents, the ones that are truly successful, they're the ones that absolutely care, right?
Yeah, they do.
And they're not just in it for the money. What we found, and what we found those agents find as well, is that when you do it for the right reasons, you're blessed with money, right? That happens. But the bigger blessing is leading people to homes, seeing the looks on their face when they're able to achieve that home ownership on that dream home that maybe sometimes they didn't think they could even buy. Yep. And that's because of the works of you and the people that are working around you. And man, I think that you share that passion. And that leads me to one of our favorite questions to ask, right? David, do you want to hit him with it?
Oh, yeah. 7 years in real estate, huh?
Just over, yeah.
What's the one moment or achievement that you're most proud of?
I don't like that question because there's so many.
There are.
Right.
That's why I went.
How do you pick one?
How you pick one? So I want the one that made you say, "This is
I love
why,
this.
This is why I'm a realtor. This is why I chose this profession over every other profession."
Yeah, because you've had a
This
few.
is why
professions.
I continue to do what I do.
have. Yeah. So unlike claims where people yell at you and disagree with you and all that, it's very rewarding in real estate for 2 reasons. You're helping somebody achieve the American dream, right? But the other part is the reaction that you get once they actually get into their house. And so as you asked that question, and we've talked in the past, and I've been thinking about
You're
it.
going through the Rolodex.
There's one in particular, young guy, had a girlfriend, was looking for a house. He was like, it's time. It's time to find a place where we can live together and all that. I thought that's where it stopped. And she would go with us to look at houses and all this. And I found a house for him, and it was fairly new. He loved the house. And we closed on it. But prior to closing, he says, we were just talking, and the girlfriend was there. And I said, what do you care more about? Because she kept asking about furniture and all this other stuff. What do you care more about, the house or a ring? And she goes, oh, I don't need a ring as long as he's here and I got a place to live. And I said, okay, a ring or like a dog, puppy. She goes, oh, a puppy would be nice. It's like, okay, so you don't really care if you get married. You're good with him as it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
closed on the house. Literally right after closing, he had, and I gave him access to the home. We got lucky we could. And he had the house prepped. She walked in, he popped the question, and had a dog.
Oh,
right there,
man.
there. And she's crying, he's crying. I was like, that was pretty cool. I wasn't there. I purposely didn't go there. Right? I let them do it on their own.
Yes,
but they told me all about it afterwards. I was like, that's awesome.
That's an awesome
That's
story.
pretty
That's
cool
amazing.
because that was part of something they'll forever remember, whether they keep that house or not. And I was able to help make that happen. But I asked those questions to set that up for him. Like he had no idea what he was
speaking of
do.
set up, we always say marry the house, date the rate.
That's it.
Marry the house, marry the woman.
Marry the woman, then get the house. It helps. Financially,
Marry the woman, date the house, right?
Right, date the house.
That's
exactly.
awesome, man. That's
And
awesome.
they, with any home, especially with first-time home buyers, which I worked a ton with first-time home buyers.
That's right.
They always have questions later on, like something happened in my house or this is going on.
Yeah.
And that particular house, it was new, it was still under warranty, and something did happen. And they called me for advice, and I said, "Here's what you need to do," and
That's awesome.
it all worked out for them. But they had somewhere to go.
Yeah.
And it's that relationship. And
It wasn't the money. They didn't.
No.
You didn't push them to voicemail when they asked the
I've
question.
actually told people don't buy a house.
Yeah.
I've walked in, people love the house. I'm like, no, there's too many problems with this house.
Yeah.
I refuse to sell it to you. If you're going to buy it, go buy it with someone else.
It's awesome.
And then it makes them think, like, what's wrong with this house? I just told you what's wrong with the house, right? So you've got to really care about what you're doing and who you're working for, because in the end, you don't want them coming back on, that was the worst realtor, when you had nothing to do with the home.
Yeah.
Like, other than finding it, right?
it.
If they love the home, fine, buy it. But here's my concerns with it. And you just got to act that way. You got to be like they're your family.
Yeah. David, I see you chomping at the bit. I think you have something you wanted to say. Was there something you wanted to say?
No, I was just like, you said it best. That's why I got into real estate. It's the largest purchase of their life. And
It is.
that feeling whenever they actually move into that house, that's a feeling they anchor to you forever because you created that emotion. So no matter how many houses you bought, because I've bought several, I remember every single person because forever that I've anchored that feeling to them.
I'm glad you do, because my parents bought a lot, and I don't remember them all. I was there. But there's one guy, Jimmy Cricket. I don't even know if he's still alive. He's an older gentleman, and this is years ago, 28 years ago. And there were things when I went with my dad looking at houses, and he said, at the time, he said, I would ask a ton of questions because I was in high school. So I was asking a ton of questions. And I said, how do you know what your payment's going to be? He goes, on average, you assume it's 1% of the cost of the home.
Sales, yep.
So if you're buying a $500,000 house, assume that your costs are going to be $5,000 a month. And I said, that seems expensive. He's like, not really. So keep in mind, this is late 90s, right? Mid 90s. And the rates were a little higher. But at the same time, you got to consider insurance. You got to consider your utilities, right? You got all that stuff.
100%.
Home maintenance. And he was right on the money. And I don't think that's really ever changed. Even with the lower interest rates, okay, it fluctuates a little.
Right.
But
Right.
your costs you have to count all that. So if you can afford 1%.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah. So.
And that's important because a lot of people go, oh, you qualify for the loan, but they don't tell you about all the other expenses that come along with it, right? But did you say Jiminy Cricket?
Jimmy Cricket.
Jimmy
I thought it was
Cricket.
Jimmy Cricket. That's
I was
why I
like,
remembered it too, though.
Is there a
He had a top
your
hat.
nose is starting to grow, right?
Yeah.
This isn't
He made a weird sound every time he was happy. It kind of sounded like a chirping noise.
My man. I love it. So I do have a question for you, and you answered a great one right there. But if I'm a new home buyer and I'm out there looking for a house, what's a great piece of advice? Right, just something that you think people need to know when you think about your role. Because I know there's a ton of ways to answer that, right? Mm-hmm. But what's a great piece of advice you would give out there for somebody that's looking at buying a house?
Are we talking first-time home buyers or someone who's bought
Let's go first time. First time, because you're right. That's a great question too, right?
First-time home buyer, what I always want to talk to them about is maintenance on the home. How old is the home? What kind of maintenance it may require? What are their plans for the future? Because we get a lot of young couples as first-time home buyers or singles. And I always ask them this question. Where do you think you'll be in 5 years?
Yeah.
The average homeowner is 5 to 7 years.
Yep, that's right.
Where do you think you'll be in 5 years? Because if you just got married or you're pregnant and having a baby soon or something along those lines, your 5 years from now looks a lot different than it does now.
Yeah.
And you've got to think about schools. You got to think about all this other stuff. So you may not want to be in downtown Dallas in a condo with a baby or a 5-year-old starting school. That doesn't work out very well, right? Yeah. And so we have these conversations. So I think understanding the client, understanding the buyer, getting to really get to know them, and then asking the right questions of what does your future look like? What do you think your future looks like?
That's right.
It doesn't have to necessarily go that way, but what do you think it will be? And a lot of them don't have an answer. Like, I'll have kids or whatever. But when it comes to the home, well, I don't know. Well, how long do you think you'll be here? I don't know, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll be here 20 or 30 years? No.
Yeah.
Now that's important, right?
It is.
If you're not going to be here 20 or 30 years and you start asking me questions about your mortgage, there's a different conversation happening than someone who plans on living there forever.
No question.
Right. And so what's really interesting about it all is the answers that I've gotten, they've all been pretty much the same. And my response is this: well, your options are you sell, you stay, or you turn it into a rental. And they never think about that stuff.
Yeah.
They never think about it. Well, how could I have a rental? I got to buy another house to live in. No. You get with my lender, and they'll talk to you about refinancing things, getting you hooked up on another one. And I promise you can do this. But let's not overspend on the house to begin with.
That's perfect.
And let's make sure it's something that you can live in the event that you have to for a long period of time.
Well, I think I see your superpower. It's one of the questions we like to ask. And it's, Brian, you get the crystal ball out. And you look into their future, right? And that's important because when you're looking for an agent, you want to make sure that the person that's representing you isn't just about the dollar, which we already know that's not the case with you, but that they're also going to help you buy the house for all the right reasons. Right. And if they're not asking great questions, you may be led to the wrong home. And that's not what Brian's doing over here. He's taking the time to sit down and consult with you and look into that crystal ball and go, hey, what does that future look like so that we can guide you to that perfect house? And that is definitely not a rookie answer. That is a veteran answer, and that probably is why you're having great success.
Well, and it's buyer's consultations are the most important thing you can do, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to represent buyers.
That's right.
Seller consultations, they call them listing appointments, but I call them consultations because an appointment means that somebody's paying somebody. Right. A consultation is I'm going to come in and give you my opinion on this based on what you're telling me.
Right.
And we're going to figure out a solution for you, whatever that looks like. And it looks different for everybody.
100%.
And if you're not getting that out of an agent, buyer's consultation, listing consultation, then something's wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Because that means you're not understanding how good the agent is.
That's right.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
And two, there's so many things that can go wrong. I've done over almost 400 transactions in 7 years.
Yeah.
And the average agent sells, I think the number is like 7 to 10 homes a year.
That's right.
So I look at that and I go, okay.
And right now, I think that average is a little lower.
Oh, absolutely. Right now.
Yeah.
Like your average agent might sell 1 this year.
That's right.
But if the average is 7 to 10 and I sell 40, that means I got 4 years worth of experience in one. Right.
It.
So over 7 years.
We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
We do.
And what's really funny about that, my dad's been a licensed agent in multiple states for 30 years.
Yeah, 100%.
But I have more experience in 7 than he has in 30.
We had this conversation just last week. We were talking to a gentleman down in Florida, and this number is going to blow you away, closed 291 loans this year with 4 people underneath him, not realtors, just 4 people on his team. The guy's a crazy hustler, but he's been in the industry for a very short period of time, but he has more experience than almost any other realtor that's been doing it for 30 years. Well, not all.
Doing that many in that short amount of
that's
time.
It.
If he's killing it in this market,
that's right.
What's he going to do if the rates drop?
Oh, man.
And we know the rates will drop, right? But what's he going to do when the rates drop? Like, that 290 something is going to be
astronomical. He's definitely going to have to hire a lot larger team. Yeah. Right. There's no way. You and I both know, when you're doing those kind of numbers, first off, you're insane.
Well, and so coming from a team that did sell 400 a year, my expectations were different. I looked at what I did.
That's
my
it.
expectations were my team sold how many I sold.
That's right.
Because I know that I would have to step out a little bit to help train and do all that other stuff, right? So I might not sell 40 or 50,
right?
But if I can get my team to sell 40, 50, because I got people that just don't have the same experience.
You got to provide support.
You got to.
You have to provide support.
Coming from a big team, and he'll learn that, you have a big team, obviously.
No question.
Those who are starting their own have to learn from somebody. So you need your mentors, you need all that. Thankfully, I had some great mentors.
There's another pro tip, guys. This guy's full of great knowledge.
I am now a mentor to others. Yeah. And I had an agent that moved from Louisiana during COVID and met him at the office, not our office. We had the brokerage office, and no one was really talking to him. He had asked a question, no one answered it. And I just went out and sat down with him. I left my little office and went out and sat down with him. And basically, every state's different. Every town's different.
That's right.
And how they do business. He was thinking small town. I said, dude, welcome to Dallas. Right? Because it's different here.
It's a different market. It's
different
here.
Market. And he said, what do you mean? I was like, okay, so you have your Louisiana license. He had an agent there that he was going to shuffle business to as he got it, and she was building business as well. And I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to start marketing the numbers.
Yeah.
He goes, what do you mean? I was like, well, and I showed him how to pull up the numbers, the charts, the graphs, all the sales and
That's
everything.
awesome, man.
I said, now go do it for Louisiana in your town. He did that. He goes, nobody does this.
Yeah.
I was like, so who's the top agent?
good
there?
ones
He goes,
do.
I try to get with the top agent in that town, and they wouldn't meet with me.
Brian Jenkins does.
Yeah, that's the thing is
Yeah.
the top agents are great. Look,
Yeah.
they're great at marketing.
Yep.
They got
That's
support on their team.
There's a reason why they're top agents.
Right. Right.
That's it, because they're doing the right activity,
doing
and
the
that's
right
and that's why we brought you on, because Brian, you're doing that same activity. It's why you've had great success in this industry, and at the end of the day, that's what makes you a top agent. So I appreciate all the tips that you've brought to the table, because man, this is exactly what people need to hear right now. I talk about it all the time. People need to be well led, and that's exactly what you're doing. And speaking of mentors, David's also taken on the mentorship program with our office. We've got some people that have started with the team that are newer to not necessarily the market, but just newer to working with us. And he's taken them onto the team to mentor them and to walk them through. We've got a lot of processes. And you walk in and nobody trains you, man, it's a whirlwind
100%.
as to how to do the things that we do to create great success, right? So you've got to have a mentor, and it sounds like that's what you've done within your business as well. You're mentoring people to help them find success and waking them up to the successes that you can have in this industry just by following the right activity, right? Well, I'm going to hit you with one more question, and then we'll wrap this thing up because we can't keep you here all day. But right now, interest rates, right? We talk about this all the time. They've slid up. We talked about it a minute ago. It's definitely not the highest rates have ever been, nor do I think it's the highest they'll ever get, right? I think we'll see higher rates at certain points in time over life. We never know what the future is going to bring us, right? We know that COVID certainly was fantasy land, right?
100%.
Rates that at one point in time, we had 1.99 on the rate sheet, right? 1.99, like
insane.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But we knew that was only going to be, a short lived. I used to coach the team all the time, guys. Enjoy this opportunity while it's here.
Yep.
It's never happened before.
Yep.
It most likely, I say most likely because you can't say never, will never happen again.
Correct.
Right? But we will return back to a normal rate environment, and here we are. And that's exactly what is your point, your point on that?
So it's an interesting time because we're not seeing prices drop on homes.
That's right.
So, and why? Because inventory is still low. Why is inventory low? Because people bought homes with a 1.99% interest rate. So it's a weird time. And honestly, everyone I've ever talked to in this business are saying right now has never been seen. They've never seen a situation where you have, I'm going to say normal rate amount. 7-8% is a normal rate amount. So I'm going to say you never seen normal rates with low inventory, with prices maintaining or increasing depending on where you're at. We know our neighborhood still gets multiple offers.
No question it does.
So you don't see that. And then you have a whole generation who never, ever experienced a rate higher than 5%.
That's right.
And it's getting through to them because they're the next big generation. So you had your baby boomers, they're all going to be selling and downsizing, right?
Yep.
But they're looking at it going, well, I refinanced if I did have a loan already. And so I'm going to stay where I'm at because my payment's the same.
Yeah.
There's going to be a point in life where they just can't take care of their property anymore.
That's it.
And so something will happen. We're going to have a ton of homes come on the market, and this next generation is going to expect it to be 5% or lower.
Right.
And it's not going to happen.
Right.
We know that. I don't think anytime soon those rates are coming down. And so it comes back to education. Educating the buyers out there, educating the general market, educating the sellers, because the sellers are sitting here going, well, my prices haven't dropped. Yeah, but your market time is twice to 3 times what it was.
100%.
It's not a week anymore. Now it's 3 to 6 months.
Right.
And you're not used to that because the last few years hasn't been that. So
it hasn't.
It's a conversation and education piece, and a lot of agents don't do that. A lot of mortgage lenders don't do that.
Well, and there's another problem. There's a lot of unqualified people out there giving information,
100%.
right? There's a lot of people that don't have decades in the industry that are giving that information. And that's a big problem, right? Because a lot of the times when we're looking to advice from people, especially on social media, which is where most people spend their time these days, right? The people that are responding are unqualified to answer the question. So when somebody lobs off a question on a forum or a site and you see all these comments that are coming in, well, what does that person do? What is their role in this country, right? Make sure that you're asking questions to qualified people. And if you don't trust the salesperson, that's fine. There's always somebody else that doesn't have vested interest in whether you move forward or not that can answer that question, but they need to be in an industry that's qualified to answer it. And let me tell you something, TikTok is not that industry, right?
Yeah.
There may be some people on there giving great wisdom. You know, we can't say that it's the entire thing, but I can tell you right now, when you get on those social forums and you start reading some of the things that are being said, it's frustrating because you go, well, that's not even true, right?
Well, everyone's a realtor,
Yeah.
right? Everyone's a realtor. They all have their opinion on what's going on with the market, and they're all, oh, my house is worth this. Really? Zillow told you that, or Realtor.com told you that. Like, realistically, and then you show them facts, and they want to disown the facts. Like, I'm sorry, this came from the MLS where 99% of homes are listed, and we get data.
This is what determines what the market value is. When an appraiser goes out to look at a property and determine what the estimated value is, they don't go to an online automated valuation system.
No.
Right? What they do is they look at what's sold in the immediate market, and they find homes that are comparable to the closest degree. Sometimes they're wrong. Most of the times they're not, right? And they basically base an opinion of value off of what's selling in the market today, right?
Here's how accurate they are. Have you ever had one overturned?
No.
No. I think I've had one that I argued that they didn't really overturn it. They basically said, well, was there anything that I didn't consider? And I had to go fine tooth comb and find.
I take that back. I have been able to modify some valuations occasionally, but it's
So
very
rare.
slight. And typically what it is, and I'll tell you what it is, it was some off-market sales that didn't show up on the MLS. So when you do the research and you talk to, say, the local community that knows about these off-market sales, they go, oh, yeah. No, these 3 did sell. Here they are. And you give that data to the appraiser. Sure, there might be an opportunity, but let me tell you something. Out of every 10 that you ask, maybe half of a percentage of those are actually overturned, because you have to provide accurate data that documents that this is why that house is.
And that data is available to you. It's available to me.
That's it.
And when we give that to our clients, and they go, well, I don't know that that's right.
Yeah. So ask the experts, guys. Ask the experts. And like I said, I know a lot of times it's tough because you go, but you're trying to sell me something. We're not trying to sell anything on this podcast.
Don't buy from me. Go with someone.
Go buy from Tim.
I'll go deal with someone who listens to
ask
me, right?
me the question. Go buy from somebody else. Exactly. I love it, man. I love it. But buy from us too, because we appreciate that as well.
Yes, please. Gotta pay for stuff.
No, but seriously, we don't talk about it on the podcast, because for us, we want to make sure that we're educating the consumers and agents and loan originators that are looking for great advice on how to have success in this industry. And part of that is by listening to experts that know what's happening, that are qualified to answer those questions.
You ever watch Shark Tank?
I do.
So when they come up with products and they love the product, but they go, there's too much education involved. I don't want it. I'm out. Right? That's what Cuban's always saying.
100%.
We have the business of education only. That's the only thing we can do.
That's it.
Right?
You're right.
We don't have a product to sell. We have a service to sell that is based off of education.
100%.
So they're bailing. The rich people are bailing because it requires work.
It does.
And we're the ones willing to put in the work.
We are.
That's really what
My man. Well, Brian, you're definitely willing to put in the work, and we'd love to have you here all day. We just can't.
Right.
We know you got to get back there and save the world one loan at a time, or one home at a time, right? But what didn't we ask you today that we should have?
That's a tough question. You guys cover everything because you deal with so much.
We do.
Right? And you understand what the customer's looking for. You understand what it takes to get good customers. If I had to say one question.
Sure.
What are my plans for the weekend? I mean, really, that's really what it is. And it's
my man.
competitions in
Let's
soccer.
go.
That's what it is.
So you're gonna do some dance for us on the show?
No. So we're not doing that. I got to figure out how to pay for the dance.
You're not dancing.
I got to sell houses to pay for my daughter's dance. That's what it comes down to.
So it's not TikTok. We're not like.
No.
No, it's not okay.
Besides, I prefer MySpace.
My man, old school. I love it. All right, well, brother, if the people that want to find you, and we know they do, want to get in touch with you, how do they find Brian Jenkins?
If you're looking anywhere in the state of Texas, I know lots of people, so even if it's not somewhere I cover, just give me a call at 214-864-9998. Very simple. I'm sure they'll throw it up there on whatever.
We sure will. And then you've got a great social media following. If the folks out there want to find you on social, how do they subscribe?
The Pinnacle Real Estate Group is my team name. It's on Facebook. We've got roughly 30,000 followers, mostly local North Texas folks.
There it is.
A few out of state, but always trying to post stuff on there that's educational about the market. But people get bored with that, so you got to have some fun stuff. So
you got to have fun.
We're going to throw some memes and stuff out there, mainly of David over here.
I like it.
Well, we like to have fun over here, and you guys already know that. It's a lot of the times why you tune in. We're going to keep bringing you great agents like Brian here so that you know how to find the top-tier people when you need them. David, anything you want to share before we wrap this guy up?
Man, I know if you're buying or selling a house, you better call Brian Jenkins in the state of Texas.
I don't hear his phone ringing
He just
yet.
cares, man. He
It's on
cares.
silent. We're recording.
He's the best in
Okay.
the business.
And we know because we talk every week.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right.
It. Well, that's part of our process.
It is.
We're coached, and we make sure that we take our process very seriously. It's important. It's super important. So,
nice.
Well, guys, we're your real estate success partner. I'm Devin Dubuc.
I'm David Nguyen.
And if you want to check us out, come on over to realestatesuccesspartner.com. Again, that's realestatesuccesspartner.com. We put these things out on all your major platforms: iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. If there's a podcast channel you like, we're probably on it. And we'd love it if you come over to the Dubuc team. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. And that's where you get to see the visual, right? So if you want to check us out, see what we're doing over here, see how we dress, right? I don't know what you're looking for. Come check us out. Put some comments in there, and maybe we'll have you on as a guest. We'd love to hear your feedback. So until the next time, we'll see you then.
Bye, guys.